From its ancient alchemical heritage to its contemporary societal role, alcohol embodies a fascinating contradiction, a substance promising momentary escape while simultaneously masking deeper spiritual realities. The bottles adorning your liquor cabinet carry a mysterious legacy rooted in mystical traditions and alchemical practices, a connection so significant it might revolutionize your perception of reality. The hidden meaning behind the word alul could be truly enlightening. The etymology of alcohol traces back to Arabic origins, where it initially described a refined powder derived from antimony, commonly used as kohl for the eyes. This ethereal substance was thought to enhance vision, both physically and metaphorically, enabling one to perceive beyond superficial appearances. Eventually, alcohol came to represent the quintessence extracted through alchemical procedures, particularly distillation. This essence, whether physical or metaphysical, symbolized a purified state transformed from crude matter into its most potent form. In alchemical tradition, alcohol embodies the principle of metamorphosis, a fundamental aspect of spiritual development. Similar to how physical matter undergoes distillation to extract its purest form, the human spirit experiences a comparable journey of purification through spiritual practices. Yet, when this essence is misused, as an excessive alcohol consumption, it becomes a misleading substitute for genuine spiritual evolution, merely imitating the transcendence it was intended to facilitate. Distillation, the key process in alcohol production, parallels spiritual alchemy in tangible form. This process separates purity from impurity, creating a concentrated substance. In mystical terms, this mirrors the soul's journey through life's challenges, emerging refined and more aligned with the divine. However, alcohol itself becomes a paradoxical symbol in this framework. Though created through refinement, its consumption typically leads to spiritual disconnection rather than unity. The spiritual essence that alchemy aims to cultivate is one of heightened awareness, lucidity, and divine connection. Alcohol, as a material substance, mimics this experience by modifying consciousness and perception, yet remains a mere reflection of the authentic inner transformation achieved through spiritual disciplines like meditation, prayer, and self-mastery. Rather than elevating the spirit, alcohol often binds it more firmly to material existence. Mystical traditions compare the soul to a flame seeking union with its divine source. Alcohol, inherently, reduces the body and mind's vibrational frequency, hindering the soul's ability to resonate with higher spiritual dimensions. This interference creates a barrier, obscuring the soul's natural connection to the divine. The altered consciousness induced by alcohol creates a deceptive sense of liberation. This temporary feeling of freedom isn't genuine transcendence, but rather a momentary escape from earthly burdens. Unlike meditative states that elevate consciousness, alcohol's effects cloud the mind and bind the soul to lower vibrational states, restricting its capacity for spiritual insight and intuitive wisdom. Alcohol and pineal gland. Alcohol's impact on the pineal gland, often referenced as the third eye in mystical traditions, presents a significant spiritual concern. This vital gland, believed to be instrumental in facilitating spiritual insight and intuitive perception, becomes inhibited through alcohol consumption. Consistent use gradually diminishes this natural sensitivity, effectively disconnecting individuals from their innate guidance system and divine connection. While spiritual practices are designed to enhance awareness, presence, and sensitivity to subtle energies, alcohol creates an opposing force, establishing a barrier to spiritual advancement. This progressive loss of spiritual attunement often manifests as feelings of stagnation, confusion, and disconnection from one's higher purpose. The very consciousness that spiritual seekers aim to cultivate becomes clouded, trapping them in cycles of illusion and fleeting satisfaction. In Eastern spiritual philosophies, alcohol symbolizes samsara, the perpetual cycle of suffering. This concept encompasses the endless rotation of birth, death, and rebirth, marked by suffering and attachment. Alcohol embodies this cycle in multiple dimensions. Its consumption typically stems from the desire to escape pain or pursue pleasure, fundamental forces that sustain attachment and suffering. The cyclical nature of alcohol's effects mirrors this pattern. The temporary euphoria inevitably leads to a downturn, creating an endless loop of craving and consumption. This perfectly reflects the broader samsaric pattern, where momentary pleasures are repeatedly sought despite their inability to provide lasting contentment. Similar to the soul's entrapment in the karmic cycle until achieving liberation, individuals remain bound in a continuous loop of indulgence and dissatisfaction through alcohol use. The human inclination toward intoxication fundamentally reflects a subconscious yearning for transcendence. Alcohol's temporary relief and altered state create an illusion of the bliss and unity experienced in genuine spiritual connection. This desire represents a distorted expression of the soul's inherent longing to reunite with its divine source. However, being a material substance, alcohol cannot fulfill this spiritual yearning. Instead, it functions as an impostor, offering momentary escape while deepening the soul's separation from its authentic essence. This indulgence becomes a substitute for the essential inner work needed for true spiritual fulfillment, fostering dependency and false security. The journey of spiritual awakening requires recognizing and redirecting this yearning toward practices that facilitate genuine transcendence. Through internal exploration and dedication to practices like meditation, chanting, and devotion, seekers can access the authentic bliss they unconsciously pursue through external substances. This transformation converts the cycle of addiction into a path of liberation. Alcohol represents a profound spiritual paradox in both its essence and origins. While its alchemical roots and symbolic nature connected to concepts of refinement and transcendence, its misuse typically results in entrapment in lower vibrational states. Spiritual masters consistently emphasize awareness, clarity, and interconnection as essential elements for liberation, qualities that alcohol diminishes. Transcending the cycle of desire and illusion perpetuated by alcohol requires recognizing the soul's authentic longing for divine union. This awareness marks the beginning of transformation, converting unconscious cravings for intoxication into conscious spiritual awakening. Before we go deeper, pause for a moment, kindly hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Like this post and share it with anyone who needs to see. Mystical accounts and spiritual warnings. The renowned Sufi mystic and poet Rumi frequently discussed intoxication in his teachings, though his references were largely allegorical, describing the divine rapture of spiritual communion. Throughout his poetry, wine serves as a metaphor for divine love, a sacred nectar that lifts the spirit into realms of infinite bliss and oneness. His famous words echo this sentiment: "Be intoxicated with love, for love is all there is." Rumi distinguishes this sacred intoxication from the deceptive refuge of physical substances. He cautions that while earthly wine offers temporary escape, it ultimately leads to spiritual dullness, obscuring the clarity essential for perceiving deeper truths. In Rumi's vision, genuine intoxication emerges not from external substances, but through surrender to the divine beloved, enabling the soul to rise above worldly constraints. Within Rumi's Sufi philosophy, the metaphor of intoxication often symbolizes the dissolution of self and the embrace of divine oneness. Physical intoxicants, however, are viewed as mere shadows of this exalted state, luring seekers with false promises that ultimately entangle them deeper in material existence. The spiritual teacher Osho stressed the vital importance of consciousness and present moment awareness. In his perspective, alcohol represents a fundamental obstacle to mindful living. He taught that intoxicants cloud perception and separate individuals from their authentic experience, creating illusory freedom. Osho frequently stated, "Awareness is the gateway to transformation." Alcohol destroys this essential awareness, preventing self-realization. He saw intoxicants as emotional anesthetics, tools people employ to avoid life's challenges rather than facing and transcending them. His teachings emphasize that true liberation emerges through inner exploration, embracing personal growth, and expanding consciousness through meditative practices. For Osho, spiritual evolution demands complete presence, and mind-altering substances inherently impede this journey. Paramahansa Yogananda, the esteemed yoga master who authored Autobiography of a Yogi, emphasized the importance of mental discipline and spiritual lucidity. He cautioned against alcohol's ability to undermine mental focus and weaken the determination necessary for spiritual advancement. Yogananda described the human mind as naturally turbulent, comparable to a wind-disturbed lake. Intoxicants intensify this mental agitation, making it more challenging for practitioners to achieve the mental stillness required for deep meditation and divine connection. He observed, intoxicants disrupt the body-mind balance. They obscure the inner wisdom guiding souls toward freedom. According to Yogananda, spiritual enlightenment requires mastering sensory impulses and developing inner fortitude. Alcohol, by distorting awareness and weakening self-discipline, becomes a formidable barrier. Ancient warnings against alcohol in esoteric traditions. Journey throughout history, spiritual traditions have consistently cautioned against alcohol consumption, recognizing it as an obstacle to spiritual evolution. Buddhist teachings include abstinence from intoxicants as a fundamental precept among the 5 core principles, emphasizing its significance in maintaining mental clarity and ethical conduct. Hindu sacred texts, particularly the Manusmriti, explicitly warn against alcoholic beverages, linking them to the deterioration of self-control and moral character. In the mystical tradition of Sufism, while wine serves as a powerful metaphor for divine love and spiritual ecstasy, physical intoxicants are strongly discouraged. The tradition views alcohol as a barrier that separates seekers from their ultimate goal of divine union. The great mystic Jalaluddin Rumi masterfully employed wine imagery to portray the overwhelming nature of divine love, while consistently emphasizing that authentic intoxication stems from spiritual practices rather than material substances. Within Gnostic Christian teachings, worldly wine symbolizes attachment to material pleasures that distract from spiritual growth. Gnostic writings stress the vital importance of maintaining spiritual vigilance and inner purity, cautioning that physical intoxication and other bodily pleasures divert the soul from its sacred purpose. True wine, in this context, represents gnosis or divine wisdom that liberates the spirit from suffering's endless cycles. Sacred texts present alcohol in a paradoxical light, simultaneously representing both divine communion and worldly distraction. The Bible illustrates this duality, with wine playing a central role in the Eucharist as Christ's blood and the promise of eternal life, while elsewhere condemning excessive drinking. Proverbs 20:1 clearly states, "Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise." This dual symbolism reflects alcohol's potential to either enhance or diminish spiritual connection, depending on context and intent. In mystical and alchemical traditions, wine often represents the spiritual elixir that elevates consciousness. This metaphorical wine symbolizes divine grace, which fills the soul with sacred joy and insight. The primary spiritual danger lies in confusing physical intoxicants with their spiritual counterparts, attempting to achieve divine consciousness through material means. Divine intoxication, or spiritual inebriation, describes the overwhelming. Divine intoxication, or spiritual inebriation. Divine intoxication manifests as profound states of unity with the divine, transcending ordinary awareness and infusing the soul with infinite love, wisdom, and joy. Throughout spiritual traditions, mystics have identified this exalted state as the pinnacle of spiritual aspiration. Consider Rumi's poetic description of being intoxicated by divine love, where the individual consciousness dissolves into the boundless ocean of ultimate reality. This sacred inebriation represents not a dimming but rather an expansion of awareness into the fundamental interconnectedness of existence. While physical intoxication through alcohol merely dulls perception and generates artificial euphoria, Spiritual intoxication heightens consciousness and births authentic ecstasy. This divine drunkenness requires no external substances, but emerges naturally through dedicated inner transformation and complete surrender to the sacred. The mystical traditions offer various pathways to access spiritual intoxication through time-tested practices. Meditation serves as a gateway to inner stillness, allowing direct experience of the divine presence within. Devotional practices such as sacred chanting, spiritual songs, and heartfelt prayer cultivate intimate communion with the divine. Acts of selfless service and compassion provide another avenue, helping dissolve ego boundaries and opening the heart to receive divine grace. The immortal words of the Persian mystic Hafiz perfectly capture this state of spiritual intoxication. I am a hole in a flute that the Christ breath moves through. Listen to this music. This metaphor beautifully expresses complete surrender to divine will, allowing sacred energy to flow unimpeded through one's being. The time has come to pierce the veil of illusion and reclaim your inherent divine connection. If you've journeyed this far, you're prepared to take the next step on your spiritual path. Subscribe now and share these insights with those seeking deeper truth. Together, we'll unveil the sacred mysteries that await discovery.